Okay, if you're just joining us here on Al Jazeera, we are bringing you that continuing coverage of that attack in a church in Nice. 3 people have been killed in a stabbing attack. The attacker has been taken into custody. We're also learning of an incident in the French city of Avignon. Police say they've shot dead a man after he threatened members of the public with a knife. We're also hearing that a man has been arrested in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia after stabbing a guard at the French consulate there. That's according to state television. So that's 3 separate incidents in just one day. Let's speak now to Yasser Louati. He's the head of the Justice and Liberties for All Committee and is a civil liberties activist. Good to have you with us here on Al Jazeera. I've just listed 3 separate incidents, and in all of those incidents, the attacker has been shouting, "God is great," assuming a mantle of Islam there. What's your reaction to that?
Well, my first reaction is a set of questions to which so far we have no answers. So we are unsafe in churches, restaurants, concert halls, public transportation, and the list goes on. Now, we are in a country that has implemented mass surveillance. The government said we need to monitor all conversations on the internet. We need to be able to predict terrorist attacks. We need extra means for the state to prosecute any person, preventive justice, to put people under house arrest ahead of the time they need to act. And yet this is happening again. Just 1 week after the beheading of Samuel Paty. What's going on with this country's counter-terrorism legislation and this country's counter-terrorism strategy? So, to quote again the domestic intelligence themselves, the repression-based model is a complete failure. I can bring you here this book from Vincent Nouzy, 40 years of failed counter-terrorism, and yet we're not asking ourselves, why is this happening to us and why this keeps happening again and again and again? So what are we going to do now? Just stay at home and don't go out and just do nothing about it? These are really serious questions. And the government, yet again, will fail to address these questions by saying what is not working within the counterterrorism framework that makes these attacks happening again and again.
So is this a failure on behalf of the France's police and counterterrorism then? Why do you think this is happening? Why do you think people are picking up knives and running into churches and killing people?
Well, the why so far, nobody is answering because they keep killing these people. When are we going to arrest these people, interrogate them on their motivations? When are we going to be able to act ahead of time and prevent these attacks from happening? I mean, a woman was beheaded inside a church. That means these people have nothing sacred. There is nothing, there are no moral, boundaries for them. And this has happened, again, 1 week after a teacher was beheaded. So now the French state needs to really address these questions and say, where have we failed, and why are these people attacking us? Now, a church, saw this beheading today. 750 people got killed in mosques across the Muslim world. Why can't we connect the dots and see that this ideology has been spread and that we lost so far the battle of idea? Because these keep happening again and again, and we keep dealing with these attacks separate from one another. They are not, apparently. And as you just mentioned it, 3 attacks happened today. So how many more attacks before we start questioning our strategy? Apparently, it's not working. What are they going to do now? Blame Muslims again and tell them you are responsible because a man did that? Like it happened in Nice and after Samuel Paty, for example? Honestly, this is really a disaster for France. Really a disaster. And for us, we are truly asking the government, when are you going to start asking serious questions and stop beating around the bush when it comes to a failed counter-terrorism strategy?
So when it comes to trying to find out the motivation behind this, you said yourself these attackers clearly hold nothing sacred. We understand that the attacker in Nice has been taken into custody. We know one of the individuals behind the Bataclan attack, he was taken into custody but refused to talk. So what would you suggest the governments and investigators do in this instance? What would you see as a step forward to understanding why people go to these lengths to kill others?
Well, so far the government has plenty of means to investigate on this individual, interrogating him, tracking all his communications for the past year, to say the least. The same thing happened with Samuel Paty's, assassin. He was reported multiple times and the government failed to address these multiple reports. So now if the state has won the battle against human rights and civil liberties and the right for privacy, now maybe they have the means to find out what happened. And we know these measures that have been implemented did not prevent these attacks. And now it's on the government to literally interrogate this person and maybe connect the dots between the attacks in the non-Muslim world and the attacks in the Muslim world. Because again, we see that mosques have been attacked multiple times. In Egypt alone, over 300 people got killed in a mosque in the Sinai region. And nobody made the connection today with what was happening in this church.
Yeah, but
what I fear,
to defend the French president, he's not responsible for attacks that happen in Egypt's mosques, though. In terms of how France addresses this and what France should be doing moving forward.
I'm not saying he's responsible. No, the problem is that we take attacks at home and don't connect them with what's happening abroad. The ideology behind these attacks is the same. And at the same time, we have, Daesh, I keep saying it over and over again. These attacks, when they carry them shouting Allahu Akbar, they know exactly what they're doing. Refer, madam, to their peace, the destruction of the gray zone. We want to shed blood and turn oppression against Muslims. And these governments, from Macron, François Hollande, Sarkozy, etc., they all did exactly that. They don't address the why and how of these attacks, and then look for a scapegoat to divert public scrutiny from the failures. I'm going to quote again John Brennan. We can't call him an Islamo-leftist. He said in 2015, the attacks in Paris are a massive intelligence failure. We could have learned from that, yet we haven't. And we have plenty of documentation saying that 40 years of counter-terrorism in France have failed.
Do you think that...
Honestly...
So
yes,
I'm sorry to cut you off. Do you think that the French counter-terrorism is overstretched then? Do you think that they are perhaps monitoring too many people, or they aren't monitoring the individuals they should be? What should the counter-terrorism forces be doing if they have all these tools available? Why are they missing the most dangerous individuals?
Two problems rose under Nicolas Sarkozy. First, he destroyed the national network of domestic intelligence, what we call the general intelligence, les renseignements généraux. He destroyed that, and after rebuilding the so-called national intelligence with the DCRA, two clans emerged, the new clans under Sarkozy and the previous ones. And the second problem, again, is that this intelligence is getting way too much information with this mass surveillance. They can't possibly process everything. So they said in 2014, 2015, despite the Snowden revelations, that we need to monitor everybody. Sir, you can't monitor everybody's details and monitor and then process them. There's way too much information. So they put the whole country under mass surveillance, and they're unable to process the information they're getting. And the example has been given a week ago with Samuel Paty. People reported the man. And Gérald Darmanin, when he was asked in the National Assembly, refused to answer the question. We have a system called Pharos, to which people can report, and then report accounts that are showing radical behavior, that dangerous one. It happened multiple times, including by Muslims. This time again, mass surveillance failed again. It's because the state is getting way too much information. Domestic intelligence is a mess. Clans are fighting one another. Agencies are not working with one another. And what was being put under the shed light under the lights after 9/11, that agencies were rival to one another, not sharing information, etc., is happening again in France. So how many more lives before we start asking the real questions, madam? And this person, I'm afraid, I said 5 years ago, these terrorist attacks are the new norm. I couldn't even imagine that this would take place in a church. Okay. I mean, I have, a son who doesn't want to take transportation. Honestly, this is a disaster, and I fear for the months to come for France.
Okay, Yasser Louati there joining us by Skype. Thank you very much indeed for your thoughts and your analysis. Well, earlier